in my mind, the most important voice in many, many ways is that of the Susie citizen who hears about a bill that they care passionately about and comes down and says, I'm not here representing anyone, I just think this is of concern. I appreciate the opportunity to present to you House Bill 1156, and I will say a couple things up front. I know that I am standing in the way of all of us having lunch before our 1:30 committees, so we can do this pretty fast. And then the second thing that I will say is that I would like to acknowledge my once and future opponent, Joshua Scharf, who is attending today. And I appreciate your being here as a citizen lobbyist. Are you one of those walk-ins?
I'm one of the walk-ins.
You're walk-in.
Welcome walk-ins.
Exactly.
We like to welcome our volunteers and our walk-ins. Welcome.
And the third thing that I will say getting to the bill is that I know that we have serious philosophical differences about how campaigns should be financed. I just say that right flat up front. I know that that's there. My values, I think, have been pretty well expressed throughout the years I've been involved, and certainly during my campaign. I think the amount of money we spend on political campaigns in this country is obscene, and I do not like the influence of special interest groups of any sort. I think all of you know that I do not take political action committee money in my campaigns. I don't take small donor committee money in my campaigns. I take money only from individuals. And it is just a value of mine that elections have gotten way out of hand as far as how much money comes in and where it comes from. Along those lines, I believe that if we want to reclaim our democracy, we should pay for our own campaigns through our own dollars. And so this bill is an attempt to move in that direction toward public financing of campaigns. I also recognize that trying to have public taxpayer dollars spent on political campaigns at this point in time is insane because we are cutting K-12 education and higher ed and everything else, and so I don't want to take money away from services. So my bill is 100% voluntary, both in where the money would come from, were we to pass this bill, as far as funding campaigns with matching funds, and in how people would candidates would access it. So the program is totally voluntary. So the two major components I will just lay out very simply, and it's a pretty big bill because there's lots of ways of pieces and parts of how to make the whole thing work with the Secretary of State's office. But basically, the two major components of the bill, one is that there would be a checkoff, and we'll talk about this in a moment, on our income tax forms where, you know, we have a list now of things that we can say we want to give a portion of our refund to, and this is our income tax refund. When we file our income tax every year, some of us are fortunate enough to have refunds, and we may say we want a portion of it to go, for example, to the, what are some of them? There's a list on the fiscal note here. We may say,
Family relief.
yeah, there's a whole list on the fiscal note of the places it can go, the Military Family Relief Fund or the Pet Overpopulation Fund or the Adult Stem Cell Cure Fund or all kinds of multiple sclerosis. So we have all those there. So this would join that list if we pass this, and citizens would voluntarily have the opportunity to say, I want some of my tax refund to go to financing political campaigns. So that's the way the fund would be developed. And the details, of course, are in the bill, and I'm happy to talk about them if we want to go into that detail. The second thing is how the candidates would access that fund if and when it's developed thoroughly enough to be accessed. And this expresses the other value that I mentioned, and that is that I feel very strongly that our contributors should be as close to us as they can be. So the provision in the bill says that if you are a House member, 0.1% of your contributors should come from within your House district. If you are a state senator, the same proportion. That comes to about 65 people in a House race and about 120 people in a Senate race. And you would then certify through a process that's described in the bill that your contributions, any amount, at any point you can do this, but that 65 of your contributors are constituents who've given you at least $5. And that would be the threshold that you would meet to prove that you are worthy of access to the public funds, which would be in the pot that has been created through the checkoff on the income tax fund, refund form. So those are the basic two components, and as I said, there's a bunch of pieces and parts to all of it, but the two components are to express a value that our contributors should, at least to a minimal extent, be from within our district, and that we have the opportunity to allow Coloradans who would like to contribute to a pot of public money that they would create voluntarily for funding political campaigns. So that's the essence of the bill.